Okay, welcome in everyone. And today we are going to be talking about working with the magic of the dark moon. So, you may have heard of the new moon and the full moon and how to work with those, but have you heard of the dark moon energy? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And prior to researching, this, I had heard a little bit about the dark moon, and I don't know why it doesn't get as much attention as the new moon and the full moon. It feels like it kind of gets skipped over. And I think it does have like similarities to the new moon, but I think that it's kind of its own thing as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, and we're going to start with some just kind of like astrological backgrounds in regards to working with different moon phases, right? And what I channeled about the dark moon energy from the Akashic Records. But then we're going to get into the juicy stuff. We're going to get into the juicy stuff about the moon, and not just the dark moon, but just about the moon in general. So if you're on this channel, if you're watching this content, you probably like alien stuff, galactic history, Akashic Records, and that leads a little bit into conspiracy theories, right? And so you may have heard a conspiracy theory about the moon. There are many, right? There's like a conspiracy theory that the moon is a satellite. It was created by extraterrestrials. There's a lot of, theories about how there were like ancient wars and military and things like that on the moon. So we're going to get into that. And I actually went into the Akashic Records and channeled some of this information myself. And the reason I did this, I wanted to channel this information, is because I love working with the magic of the moon. Like, I think those are some of my like ancestral like practices to work with the magic of the moon. I do new moon intentions. I do on the full moon releasing and illumination and kind of like full moon ceremonies. I do all that stuff and I love it. And it's so magical. So I'm like, you're telling me some like conspiracy theory, like the moon's not real. How is it not real if we work with the magic? Like, and it feels so real when I work with the magic of it. And so that was kind of why I wanted to channel about the moon to begin with, right? So that was my motivation, I should say. So with that, we're going to get into it. If you haven't yet and you like this content, please click like and subscribe. I'm Judith Hope. This is my channel. I am a Galactic Akashic Records practitioner. I work with star seeds to help them remember who they are. So you're a star seed, you think you might be a star seed, or maybe you think you're not a star seed. You want to find out for sure. I have my link to book a reading with me below. So if you want to find out your galactic lineage, your soul lineage, where your soul came from, and hey, maybe it just came straight here to Earth and you're not from another galaxy. But more often than not, the people who are drawn to my channel, you are a star seed. You came here from another star system, another planet, another galaxy, another universe. I am discovering new universes that some of my clients are coming from. So if that sounds like it interests you and you're like, hey, like that might be me, like definitely would love to have a session with you. The link to work with me, one is below, as well as some other freebies for you guys. So that is me. So this content I created that you're going to listen to today, I actually created it for my meetup group. So I have a completely free meetup group on meetup.com. It's called the Starseed Collective. And every 2 weeks, we have a cosmic connection circle. Again, completely free. You get to come be in a space with other spiritual, people, but also spiritual people who want to know about things like extraterrestrials, galactic technology, right? I think we are at the precipice of really understanding what has happened on this planet, right? We talk about new Earth and old Earth, right? But how did we get here? How did our society get to function the way that it is? How was it shaped, right? How was this planet shaped? And I think that's such an important like part of it, right? And it's part of the spiritual journey to me. Even understanding like what the shadow government has done on this planet is part of the spiritual journey for me. It is not something separate, and the conspiracy theories are not something separate. I think they very much so tie into the spiritual aspect of being a human on the planet at this time. And it's really important being a star seed or an earth soul, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your soul came from here, there, Timbuktu or Earth. We're all humans having this human experience at this time, right? So definitely come check out the group. It is linked below. So let's get into it. What is the dark moon. So, like I mentioned, we hear a ton about the new moon in the full moon, right? And we typically will do rituals surrounding the new moon and the full moon. So, let's just start there, get our background. So, in general, working with the new moon energy is about setting intentions and manifesting, right? I like to set intentions during the new moon phase. It kind of has a dreamy quality about it to what is possible. That this is a time for new beginnings and the planting of seeds and the setting of intentions, right? It's kind of like a new beginnings, a refresh, a restart. And that's the new moon energy, which typically is like the new moon is where you can't really see the moon anymore. It's just kind of like a dark moon, right? So that's what I'm saying. The new moon and the dark moon can be kind of similar. Now, full moons, however, so you set your intention during the new moon, and then you go into, I believe it is the waxing phase, the waxing gibbous, right? And so full moons are kind of when you get to the peak of this manifestation energy, right? And it's a coming to fruition of our intentions and manifestations that were set during the new moon. So full moons are really a time of illumination surrounding the intentions that you set during the full moon. So because of this, you're like, hey, like I set my intention in the new moon. And then when you set intentions, like things start to move, things start to happen. And a lot of times it's realizations, illuminations, blocks being coming up to be healed, right? These old wounds, triggers, patterns, things coming up to be healed. So by the time we to the full moon, we've had that illumination and it's a time of shedding, right? Letting go and releasing what is no longer needed as it continues on the moon's cycle. So that's kind of the phases of the moon. A lot of times during the full moon, I'll go to like full moon ceremonies and it's kind of like dancing and embodiment and like tea ceremony and like reflecting and things like that. Whereas new moon, it's always kind of about manifestation. So just a little bit, I guess, like astronomical type of information. A new moon occurs when the sun and the moon are together, conjunct, and there is no illumination. That's why it's dark, it's new, it's a dark reset, an internal yin energy. And I looked up from Google like the definition of yin energy. And Google's definition is that yin energy is a receptive, passive, and cooling force in Chinese philosophy representing the shaded side of a mountain. It embodies qualities like darkness, femininity, rest, intuition, and introspection, acting as the necessary counterbalance to active yang energy. Yin is associated with substance, nurturing, and quietude. Now it's interesting because this is what is associated with the new moon, but you also set intentions during the new moon. So when I tapped into the dark moon, I actually feel like the yin energy is a little bit more in alignment with the dark moon, but we're going to get into that in a second. So the sun and the moon sign for a new moon are the same. So for example, if the sun is in Virgo, the moon will also be in Virgo on the new moon, while the full moon is the opposite sign of the sun on the day of the full moon. For example, when the sun is in Aries, the full moon will be in the opposite sign of Libra because Aries and Libra, like on like a natal chart, right? They're like in opposite positions. And so it's interesting because I'm filming this in April of 2026, and I had an event yesterday on April 13th because I'm filming this on April 14th, and April 13th was a Monday. And I was planning to do some kind of new moon ritual with my group, the Starseed Collective. Um, but when I tapped in, I kept getting like, hey, let's do the dark moon, right? Because it's closer to the full moon. That date was closer, excuse me, that date was closer to the new moon than the full moon. So it was like, hey, like new moon intention, but then the dark moon kept coming forward. So then I looked at it. And so on Friday, April 17th, that is when the new moon happened. So I was like, okay, the reason the dark moon is coming through so strongly in this event is because it is the dark moon period. Because the dark moon period is about 4 to 5 days before the new moon, right? So you're typically still going to be in the late waning gibbous phase, right? So kind of like the crescent moon. It's not totally like truly dark. That's the new moon, which is a little weird. Um, but that's the period of the dark moon. And so I was like, okay, so like when I'm physically meeting with this group of people to talk about the moon, it is the period of the dark moon. So that's why I kept getting like the intuitive hit, like, let's make this about the dark moon instead of the new moon. So I went into the Akashic Records as a channel and I asked about the dark moon. And I'm going to channel a lot, or I already channeled like quite a bit about the moon. And so with channeled information, like you just kind of have to take it or leave it. Like either it resonates or it doesn't, right? And there's a lot of channelers out there. A lot of channelers are channeling conflicting information or maybe stuff that doesn't make sense or we don't understand. And so with channeled stuff, you just kind of have to find the people that resonate with you and take the information or leave it, right? It's not like absolute fact, right? I would have no way to prove any of this stuff that I've channeled. So it's kind of like you resonate, it helps you, with something in your life or have an understanding, or you just kind of let it go, right? So that's my approach anytime I listen to a channeler, right? So when I tapped into the Akashic Records to understand the dark moon, the first thing I actually saw was this image of like wolves like howling, right? And we typically think of like wolf energy with the full moon, like werewolves, right? It's like the full moon's out and it's like werewolves. So I kind of got that image, and then all of a sudden it was like it just goes to this dead type of feeling, right? Like a void, or like nothing is really happening. And it's kind of those few days prior to setting the intentions in the new moon phase, right? So when we're in the dark moon, we've had about a week or so, maybe a little more than a week, 8 or 9 days from the realizations of the full moon, right? We had some illumination about our life and the situations going on. And now we're just kind of sitting in that energy of the dark moon, like the now what, okay? Like the in between, right? Because we're not quite at the new moon when we're going to set an intention, but it's just kind of that time. It's like a pause or a void. It's like, oh, okay. So I just realized this. So like, what do I do? And like, it takes time to process things, right? Like sometimes it's good to take a beat and take a pause. Um, so it's really just like a rest or a break before we take action during the new moon. Um, and one example that kind of came through from the Akashic Records is like if you've ever watched a movie or read a book before a big battle, all of the characters are kind of having their like last night, like moment of safety, right? Like a lot of times, like the lovers will be, reconnecting because they might die tomorrow. One of them might die tomorrow and they're never going to see each other again. So this might be their last night together. And then you have characters who are just like really kind of thinking about their life, right? And reflecting because they may not make it another day? So it's just kind of like that very potent energy time to reflect during the dark moon. And so the guidance that I received from the Akashic Records is that because this time of the dark moon feels like a pause, it's a really good time to go and take walks for reflection, to meditate, or maybe even like go and listen to music. Just kind of let things be, like let things process. Like this is not necessarily the time to take a lot of action. And this is only a 4 and 5 day period, right? Now, obviously, like if you have a bill due or something during the dark moon, you should pay the bill, right? But this isn't the time that you're going to go and you're going to be like, hey, I'm going to kick off some, huge, big thing, right? Like it's a time to reflect and kind of just sit in the energy and like process like what's to come, right? And so for me, as I kind of mentioned earlier, with the dark moon or the new moon or the full moon, like I really believe that these phases are real. I've worked with the energies of the moon. Like I love charging like crystals under the energy of the moon or like going out different during like eclipses, right? And feeling the energy, like all that kind of stuff feels very real to me. So when I hear about these conspiracy theories and it's like, oh, well, it's created by extraterrestrials, it's not real, it's fake. I'm like, well, then why is it so magical? Like, why is something so magical and so potent? Like, how could it be fake? And so that was kind of like the question that I had, and why I was like, let me just go in and like see what the Akashic Records have to say about this, right? And I went in really trying to be neutral. Like, anytime I channel stuff, like, if this, it's like I'd heard certain theories, and so I didn't want any of that to kind of clog up my channel. So I go in just very neutrally, like, what answers, what is it that, the Akashic Records, has to provide today. And so we're going to go through what I channeled. And basically, the first thing I did was that I went into the Akashic Records and I was like, okay, like, let's go to the moon. Like, let's find out about the moon. Like, is it real or is it fake? Is basically the question I asked. And like, immediately it cut to the scene from a movie that I had watched recently. And when I channel, I get a lot of examples, like symbolic examples of like movies I've watched or books I've read or TV shows or like even like podcasts and things I've listened to, like just to kind of show like what the situation is. And the scene that came through was a movie that I watched just a few months ago. I think it came out in like maybe November, December of 2025. But then I went to see it, maybe I went to see it in December of 2025 or January 2026. I think it was December 2025, but it was called Eternity and it has Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller as the leads. But basically, this older couple, they both kind of pass away on Earth, and their soul goes to this kind of like holding space in the afterlife, like this train station that they take a train to this train station, and it's hooked up to this like resort where you can kind of go and figure out where you want to go for the rest of eternity. So it's like if you want to spend eternity like in Paris, like you're going to eat at cafes and sitting under the Eiffel Tower for your whole life, or if you want to be on a ski trip your whole life and be like in Vermont your whole life, or Aspen, or wherever, you got to pick your eternity. But this whole place is just like that you're staying at is like totally fake. Like, and in the hotel rooms, they literally have like a wall and then they put a curtain over it that has like a fake moon at night and then a fake sun like during the day. And so, like, immediately when I went into the Akashic Records, it showed me the scene from that movie being like, it's fake. And it definitely had like shadow government, reptilian type of feeling to it, right? And so I saw that first and I was like, okay, so I feel like it's been compromised at some point, probably by the shadow government, was, you know, that was pretty high level statement, but pretty clear when I went in. And then the next thing I saw is that I saw the image of the moon, and on one side is a side of the moon we can see, and then the other side is like basically this like lit up like side of the moon. And it's interesting because it is a scientific fact, and I did know this prior to going in and channeling, that we can always see the same side of the moon. And so I went to Google and I just wanted to confirm that this was accurate. And they said, yes, the same side of the moon, the near side, always faces Earth because it is tidally locked. This means the moon rotates on its axis in the same amount of time it takes to orbit Earth, approximately 27.3 days, ensuring the same face is always turned towards us. Okay, and just that alone, I'm like, that is sus. That is sus that we only can see one side of the moon and we always see the same side of the moon. So, um, what I saw on the other side of the moon is that like it's really bright, it's lit up, and then what we can see just looks like the normal moon. Anytime we see a video of a picture of it, we all know what the moon looks like, right? While on the other side, it's really bright and it's almost like neon. And I saw that there were like all these extraterrestrials on the other side of the moon. It seemed like they had like camps set up, and a lot of diversity. And it actually kind of gave me like a music festival or like party vibe. Like just there's a lot going on over there, like music, like people talking, like all this kind of stuff, like a lot of activity on the other side of the moon. And I saw different types of beings there. The first ones I saw were definitely like reptilians, reptiles are there, but also Lyrans, like cat humanoids, different types of beings I saw on the other side of the moon. And I did see that there were bases set up there, kind of military, organizational, perhaps like Galactic Federation, and it feels like spaceships can currently land there and they conduct some kind of business on the other side of the moon. Like they were showing me, it felt like very benevolent. Like there was a scene where like landing on a spaceship, like you can get out, you can go talk to the different folks on the other side of the moon. So the next question I asked is, who are these extraterrestrials that are conducting business on this other side of the moon? Um, and the next thing they showed me is that it did feel very military at one point, like dark military, like felt very dark. And there have been accounts of that, but I saw just like this image of like dark soldiers, and I mean dark is in like lower frequency, lower polarity, right? I'm not talking about like their actual like physical look, right? And it felt very reptilian. at one point. Like they were literally showing me this like image of like T-Rexes wearing like military outfits, right? And I know like, I don't think they're actually like T-Rex, what we think of when we wear T-Rex, but it's more symbolic again to show like, hey, like the reptilian kind of warrior caste or, military type of group. So it felt like three-fourths of the moon is being used by these reptilian military, and then about one-fourth is being used like that by the benevolent species. Um, so it does feel like there's a Galactic Federation outpost there, which is where we landed initially when I kind of went into that scene. But there's still a large portion of the moon that is under control by reptilians. It almost felt like fenced off, and like from where the Galactic Federation had their outposts, like you could see like a fence with like on the other side there were like reptilians, and it really gave me like Jurassic Park vibes. It's like, okay, here's this big fence that can like be electrocuted, and like there's the dinosaurs, like the T-Rex and all these other dangerous dinosaurs on the other side. And it's interesting because I love Jurassic Park. Like those are some phenomenal movies. Like they're so good. And I recently rewatched them because they put them all on like Netflix, and like Universal in the parks was doing this like Jurassic Park, all this like extra events and stuff. So I don't know exactly why it was kind of like dinosaur Jurassic Park stuff was coming out, but I rewatched these movies, and some of those dinosaurs, like especially like the raptors or the smaller ones, and the T-Rex is a little bit too. Like when you look at their faces, it's like you can see them. Like I think that's what some of these reptilian extraterrestrial beings look like, because they look like they have a consciousness, and they look like they have a lot of emotions and like thoughts. Like they look, I don't necessarily like human, but like consciousness at a higher like functioning level. So I kind of imagine that's what reptilians may look like, what we see in Jurassic Park, right? And not that they have that same type of body, like they have the humanoid body and everything, but just in kind of like their face, right? Um, so, and it's interesting too, because last night I was watching this video on Instagram of this dude who was like playing his guitar like by this pond where all these crocodiles were in, and they love the music. The crocodiles love the music because one by one they kind of came out of the water and were like sitting by him listening to the music, and they would like lift up their like mouth, I guess, like their mouth. It's not a beak, their jaws maybe, and they would kind of look like they're like smiling and they're listening to the music. And so it's just like, I don't know. It's just weird to think about what they actually, like the human versions of them look like. And I think part of that is because we most likely are going to get to see that in our lifetimes pretty soon. Um, so I feel like mentally it's like we're kind of preparing for that. But anyway, back to the moon. So the next thing I asked the Akashic Records was, why was the moon created? So what they showed me is that it looks like it was put there by reptilians or altered a really long time ago, and that other aliens were there also, and they came in and they were like, you can't do that. Like there was some kind of like scuffle or communications with other aliens, but it felt like very prehistoric, like dinosaur times. The moon was put into the sky or altered by reptilians. And they wanted their own base that they could fly to close to by Earth. So that's why they did this to the moon, right? And so the way it looks is that like they pulled the moon down, and I don't think they literally like pulled the moon down with a rope, but if any of you have seen the music video, I believe it's Electric Feel by MGMT. Like if you're a millennial like me and you you like that era, you may have seen that music video, but they're pulling the moon down and then they're bringing it down to Earth, and they're doing some like ritual dancing and stuff around it. Like that's the example they used to show me. So I took that as like, hey, like there was something there already, and then the reptilians kind of like did something to alter it, right? And this happened after the Maldek Mars conflict, and that planet was destroyed. So if you're not familiar with galactic history, basically like the reptilians and the Greys had this like crazy big empire in the Orion star system, with the resistance was fighting them. So very Star Wars-esque, right? But eventually, the Empire was brought down in the Orion Wars, and Orion reached a state of duality consciousness. It's no longer in polarity. And so a lot of the ETs from that star system were like, well, we want to be in control. We want to play all our games and do frauds and scams and, basically continue these lower vibrational behaviors and techniques. So they came over to our solar system. And first they went to Maldek, and then Maldek was destroyed through wars and inner conflict. And then they went to Mars. Same thing with Mars. It wasn't completely destroyed. Obviously, it's still there. But then they came down to Earth. And that's where they are now. Kind of like the last stand, like we are done. We have done this on so many planets. Like it's time to be done, right? It's time to ascend and be done with these systems of control and things like that, right? But when they came to Earth, they wanted to do something differently here. So they created and used the moon as a satellite. So it feels like the moon is some type of technology they used related to the ancient wars that happened on Mars, Maldek. It came from there and it was used on this planet as a kind of like, hey, like we didn't do something right last time. So we're going to use a satellite here on Earth to our advantage. And the moon helps dictate the cycles on Earth that we can use today, right? And that is partially by design of the reptilians, but also the planet is used to operating this way at this point. And if the moon were to be removed, that would actually wreak havoc because people are used to operating under the moon cycles at this point. So the next question I asked, so is it okay to use the moon for rituals, even though it's like kind of fake, So I tapped into the moon's energy at that point, and it actually still feels really magical. Like despite like it being created or like altered by reptilians, like it feels good, like it feels great. And I saw that image of like a music festival or like a party planet kind of coming through again. So I'm like, so why is that? Because it feels good. It feels like you can use this magic or this energy of the moon. But why is that? And so I channeled that whatever the moon is made of, it's made of something like some material that's really magical, that feels good. It has a celestial feel. And I don't think the reptilians using it or controlling it totally understand it. Like they know they can use it for their purposes and how to work with it, but they're not really high vibrational enough to use it to work with like the light energy that is part of the material of the moon, like only the dark, right? It's like they know how to do blood ritual. They know how to work with the power of an eclipse, right? But they don't know how to do it for good. They only know how to do it for dark purposes. So it's like they don't really understand fully like what they can do with it, right? And so the next question I had is, did the reptilians want to be able to use this material the moon is made out of for their dark and blood rituals? And what I got was that it seems like they were trying to harness the moon to send certain frequencies and codes to Earth, actually, that would help them keep the vibration lower and keep their form right so they don't shapeshift. But it doesn't feel like they truly understand the higher vibrational quality of the moon at all. So they're trying to use it for bad, but it's kind of backfiring on them because those of us down here know how to work with the energy of the moon and use it for good, i.e., manifest and release like during the moon cycles, right? So then I asked, it's like, okay, so where did this material of the moon come from? And what I got is that it was brought here from other places, other parts of the Milky Way galaxy, and planets that were left behind after their inhabitants ascended. So they knew how to harness the power of the moon, these ancient people that ascended, and the reptilians physically brought the material here using their spaceship. So like the star constellation was kind of like Cassiopeia, or like just these ancient peoples who were here in the Milky Way galaxy, like prior to humans even really being in any part of the Milky Way galaxy. There were ancient civilizations here and they ascended, right? They raised their consciousness, they reconnected to spirit, to source, and they ascended. And they used this material on their planets to do that. So the reptilians went to those planets. There's no one there because they're ascended. They got that material, they brought it here to the moon, and that's why the moon is so magical, right? And so the good news is that even though it's kind of brought here for bad, the material of the moon can help us ascend. All right, and then the last thing I asked was anything else we need to know. Immediately, I got the message that working with the moon is actually very powerful. and that we are breaking into ancient traditions from those other civilizations, ancient magic when we work with the moon. So, tapping into those traditions and universal insights that help those other cultures ascend. So, I think it's okay to work with the moon. That's why it feels so magical, even though it's fake, is because it's not organic. Maybe it didn't form organically, like it was altered by the reptilians, but the material they used, they didn't understand that it can actually be used for the power of good. Because their lower consciousness, their lower frequency. And when you read past life events of reptilians, they kind of get into this like hive mind or just kind of like they're just like destroy or we're going to do this or that, like, hey, let's go, take this from this people or destroy these people. And like, they don't realize there's other ways to like connect other than like these lower frequency kind of like carnal urges or wanting things now. So it's just like, they kind of just like, they don't get certain things is how I see it. And we're already seeing a lot of reptilians starting to turn to light. I mean, we were seeing that during the Lyran and reptilian wars that were like billions of years ago. This is something that's been happening. But I just don't, I think those reptilians who are still doing this stuff are still in that lower frequency. So it's kind of like children don't necessarily understand, right? Because they haven't reached that higher level of ascension. So that's what I channeled. Like I said, it's channel information. Take it or leave it. If you would like to leave a comment below, I would love to see it, what you thought, if it lines up with anything else you've heard. It was really cool because one of the individuals who joined us live in the Starseed Collective had heard a theory that really lined up really well with what I had channeled. And it was cool. I was like, okay, like I can see how what that other person like had channeled kind of lines up with like what I channeled. So it was really cool. So I would love to hear that below. Also, if you do want to join us live and get to kind of talk and chat about this stuff, also when I did this live, I did it like as partially like I was talking about all that astrology stuff. Like I did an astrological reading for the group participants there. So if you come into my groups, like I do a lot of readings for the collective, and it just depends on the size of the group. Sometimes I'll do like individual readings for people as well. So I definitely like if that's your thing, if you want to meet like new people like in the spiritual community and you like to go and have like group like tarot messages, oracle cards. I use both tarot and oracle. Like I do a lot of that type of stuff in the group too. So make sure you click on that link below to join us at the Starseed Collective. I also have some freebies for you guys down there. A third eye meditation activation. And then I also have some Starseed sticker printables. So I've always been a big fan of stickers. I love stickers. I designed some of my own sticker printables. That you can print. You can make into actual stickers, or you could just use them as your background. So I'll link those below. And also, I have a link to work with me 1-1 below. So if you are ready to understand your galactic heritage, you're like, hey, like, I want to know where I'm from, what this means for my lifetime, right? Because it is fun and exciting to learn about, oh, I was this really cool alien in this other lifetime. But what's really important and impactful about the reading is that it kind of shows like what has happened in your past lives and your journey as a soul and why you're here today. Like, what is your life purpose? What are you on this planet to do? But then also, like, what are you here to heal? And why have you struggled with the certain things you struggle with? Why did you choose your family, your friends, your partner, your children? Like, why did you choose the career you're in, the hardships in your life? Maybe you've had hardships related to financial situations or relationship situations or career situations. Why did you struggle with that in this lifetime? It kind of explains all of that. And then I also offer sessions to help heal that, right? So you can get stuck out of those leaps and patterns and move into your true soul mission while you're here on this planet. It's a phenomenal time to be on the planet. Like, doesn't always feel like it, right? But I think once we get to the fifth dimension, we're like, holy crap, like we can heal and learn so much on this planet. We're seeing things shift and change. We're seeing old systems get broken down, right? We're seeing new waves of thinking, right? New movements, right? Things are just different than, if you're an adult and things were totally different in your childhood. Like there's just been so much change and transformation. So it's a phenomenal time to be on the planet. And if you want to know like your role in that, your role as a star seed or an earth soul, definitely booking a reading would help you understand that. So I'll link that below if you want to work with me one. But yeah, that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. All right. Bye, everyone.